You're listening to Monroe versus the podcast, and we're here to be about that sad stuff.
Hey buddy, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, man. How's it going?
It's going well. Do I sound okay?
Yeah. How do I sound?
You sound great. What are you doing right now?
I'm actually driving out of Donna.
Donna, Texas.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. You know, I always say, people, I do shit. I shit on the Valley. I do. And I shit on Donna, Texas. I do. But there are diamonds that come from Donna, Texas. Donna produces brilliant people. That's for fuck sure. And I'll never take that away from Donna, Texas.
You know, I think it's something about how much of a bubble we're in over here, and it's easy to become very, complacent with that. You know, being in the bubble, and like a lot of people do down here.
It's hard.
They're good not knowing.
It's hard not to be. You know, when I was down there and I saw you last about, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago by now, I thought about getting a tattoo while I was there on my hand, for real, that said 1%. Just the number 1 and then the percent sign, 1%. And it has a lot to do with a variety of things, but one of the things is, you know, I tell people, and I've been saying this for years, the Valley sucks. The Valley sucks dick, but there's 1% that is so potent, it's better than any other place I've been. Just this 1% is better. And that 1% is what keeps us going back. It's what makes it special. But 99% of it sucks.
I mean,
that complacency is part of it, you know, because everybody's there, your family's there, everything is close by, everything you know is there. What else do you need? That's the idea.
Pretty much. I mean, anything you need is here, and everybody that you know is usually here. And there's a comfort, you know what I mean?
Of course.
Even just in our culture, how, even as you get older, everybody still pretty much takes care of each other. You know, there's that, if you're lucky, you have that strong family.
Very much so.
That bond.
For sure, man. I never saw myself and my delusions of grandeur. I never felt like my comic book origin story, where my character, Knives Monroe, where he was going to stay in the Valley his whole life. I never felt that was the way it was going to be. Now, I tell everybody that I meet, new people, that I'm from Donna, Texas. That's where I'm from. Even though I was born in Tulsa, I moved to Dallas. I didn't move to Donna, the Valley, until I was 6. But I grew up there. I went to school there, lost my virginity there, all that stuff. You know, so for sure, like Valley native, as they say, that was me, man. You know, but I also knew it wasn't going to be the place where I was going to accomplish my dreams, and I had a fuckload of dreams, just crazy, delusional, maddening, psychotic dreams that I just knew, and I was that guy that beat the drum of like the local scene. You know, all we got to, if just 10 people get together, man, we can put the Valley on the map. Like, I was that guy. Like, I really tried.
Yeah.
But the Valley never wanted me in that way. Like, I never fit in, you know. English was my first language, and I just don't think I think I had too much milk in my coffee. Maybe I wasn't brown enough. I don't know. But it wasn't it didn't want me to be better. It really told me, we're good. And I accepted that.
Well, I mean, I get that because, I mean, even I get that, and it's, you know, I don't understand it. I mean, I know Spanish. I know, obviously, English is my first language, but Spanish is actually pretty strong with me. I just don't practice it, you know. And I think maybe the way I come off, sometimes when I was younger, I definitely felt like kind of alienated, and by like the actual true Mexicans that, you know, they didn't give a shit about football and only gave a shit about soccer. And
Yeah.
you know, it's like growing up in like middle school. There's like, for some reason, maybe it's just a coming of age too, that everybody feels like you gotta be like with something and against something. Like it can't all be together. And maybe it's also part of the times. I don't know.
So something I've never personally asked you is how
Yeah.
you grew up. Like, I want to say we were in first grade or kinder together, or something like that.
Yeah, we were first grade. Yeah,
That's
we're
madness.
first grade together.
That's crazy. And you have a pretty good memory
It
about
is.
that. It's funny. I would have never known if you never told me. Because I didn't know anybody in that class. Maybe except Victoria Zamora, I want to say. But I had the hugest
was she
crush
there?
on her. I thought maybe that was kinder, but I had a huge crush on her for sure. But I didn't. I mean, I was just so. I can tell you, like, I don't have any memories of first grade, but I do of kinder. Like first, I must have just blacked out or something. I don't know what was going on. But as far as you're concerned, like, where were you born, and what was, what was coming up like for you?
I was born in Weslaco, and pretty much went back and forth between Donna and Weslaco up until actually first grade. I went to pre-K in Weslaco, did and in Donna, kinder here in Weslaco, and then back again in Donna, and that's where I stayed, and grew up in my grandpa's house with my dad. And but I mean, pretty much from when I was 3, I want to say, my parents were split. But I saw both. I mean, I lived with my dad, but I mean, I saw my mom coming up, and I'm lucky, because both remarried. And I had awesome step-parents. I have. And they pretty much made it work so that we could all come together for, like, my birthdays and things like that. Celebrations, like if I did something good in school. 'Cause, especially when I was younger, I was definitely straight up book nerd.
That's really rare that and so when your parents remarried, those relationships with your step parents, that took.
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, I mean, I was 4, 5, 6 years old, and at first I hated the idea. As a kid, I couldn't understand it, and I was a little shit for a little bit, but I mean, I was lucky. I was lucky that both of them were awesome with me, and pretty much, like not a lot of people get that, and at least it seems like, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And
no, I
just made it
I
easy,
can confirm. I think you're very lucky. That's cool.
They supported me. I mean, like, as a kid, I was either reading something, playing outside, or I was lucky that they got me, toys that I wanted and stuff like that. And I was always curious, and sometimes when I was younger, like 4 or 5, 6, I would take things apart, try to put them back together, I was always curious, you know. And luckily they let me just kind of do whatever. And of course with music, like I got lucky with my dad. It's in our blood. One of the things that I didn't know I had until later on was like I was born with perfect pitch, which my grandpa had perfect pitch. My dad has relative pitch, and then I got perfect pitch again. You know, I say it skips a generation.
Wow. And so what exactly is perfect pitch for a dumbass like me that doesn't understand?
So it just means that you know when something's perfectly in tune or not. You know, you can name a note like out of nowhere. I can hear a chord, like how all the trains have different chords.
Right.
When they toot their horn, and they're not all the same. Some have chords that are actually kind of nice. You know, they're in a major key. There's nothing out. Some of them have a lot of extra notes in there which I personally feel like trains should have an ugly, either augmented chord to them or a diminished chord, so that it's not something that's usual, and it makes you, alert, which is the purpose of the train. But it's just, like it's something that you hear all the time. So if it's something that sounds sweet, yeah, you're not going to pay it any mind. You can say, oh yeah, there's a train, but it's not going to sound ugly to you. Certain chords feel like they give you that urgency, like out of the usual.
I've actually never thought about that. That's a good point. So it sounds like you said it yourself that perfect pitch, and also playing guitar is in your blood. Did you grow up with your grandpa? Like, did you ever get to watch him play an instrument? And did your dad play? And what was all that about?
So, yeah, definitely. My dad, I grew up with my dad having his room in our house in Weslaco. He had a room in the back where he had an 8-track recorder, and he would write his songs, and I would hear him play. So I grew up with that, and my grandpa played trumpet. So I would hear him play every once in a while. He'd pull it out, and he'd start playing out of nowhere, just on his own. It's not like now where we have YouTube and all these streaming services. You could play along to something in an instant. He would just pull out his trumpet and play on his own songs just from memory. After not playing for forever.
Wow.
And my grandpa actually was, I want to say, he was part of a touring orchestra when he was younger.
Oh, wow.
So, so I definitely grew up with it. And when I first asked my dad about playing guitar, which wasn't until I was about 8, he gave me a song to learn. And he says, if you learn this song, then I'll teach you. But what he did was he kind of deterred me from, he didn't want me to go down that path of learning guitar and following music, because he kind of felt like that he could never, make that band that he wanted, and never produce what he wanted to, his songs. Which now actually, going in, just as a side note, like he'll give me arrangements of songs, or he'll give me chords of songs that he has, and I've been able to arrange some of them or record them so that he can actually have his music now.
Wow.
But we'll go into that.
Yeah, totally.
So he showed me a song called Lady Starlight. He showed me the intro to the song called Lady Starlight by the Scorpions. And it's not that hard, but it has what is like a string skipping. So you play like the 4th string, and then you skip over and play the 3 other strings. it's more of an advanced rhythm than just playing maybe a straight chord or something. So we kind of did it to challenge me, say like, well, if you can play this, then okay, fine. Like, but if you don't take the time to learn it, then he wasn't gonna go down that road of trying to teach me. If it was just
that's fair.
A passing phase or something. So I learned it. So he decided to just show me chords, and I got my first guitar, which is an acoustic, a small scale acoustic guitar, and it was a cherry sunburst, like a no-name acoustic guitar. But I loved it because it was a cherry sunburst, which was like Ace Frehley from Kiss's guitar.
Yeah.
And I played those chords, and I learned a little more, and I learned them pretty quick. So he showed me, a couple techniques that he knew, which like hammer-ons and pull-offs. And he never really learned scales or nothing like that. So he always told me just listen to the music, try to play along to it. So with that alone, I kind of I would listen to songs and try to figure out where on the guitar they were playing it, and kind of learned other chords that way without ever knowing what to call them or what techniques were or stuff like that. It was just I would use my ear to hear whatever song it was, and I would hit every bit of the guitar until I figured out what I was doing. And at that point, my favorite band was Kiss, because I grew up on Kiss and the Beatles and Pink Floyd. But Kiss was, like my go-to for a long time, which in elementary, growing up, being into Kiss and being into music like I was, that was kind of like one of the things that wasn't easy growing up, at least in elementary. Was
what do you mean? What wasn't easy?
It wasn't because I would like to wear my Kiss shirts
and
I would talk about music, and I just what I was trying to talk about, everybody in my age didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So I would find myself talking to the coaches, other teachers, and stuff like that about music.
Yeah.
And it was, I could tell at that age that I just wasn't on the same wavelength. Like even at that point.
So you felt that okay, that's interesting. So you felt that growing up, kind of like, I don't want to put words in your head or words in your mouth, because I struggled with feeling, which I've been able to process after the fact, othered, right? Like an alien. I was the weird kid. Like I could not have a conversation with anybody about anything, But so your favorite thing at that time, music. I mean, kids are not really indoctrinated at that time in the mid-90s up with music, with maybe Tejano at the time, maybe Selena, right? But anything that wasn't Selena didn't exist.
Yeah, if it wasn't Selena, or if it wasn't on, at that time, B104.
Right.
It didn't exist. Yeah, it really just was just some. And rock wasn't cool at that point, So it was like basically getting teased for being into rock, or Kiss wears makeup, like little kid things. And I was like, you don't get it, man. Like
right.
Yeah, they wear makeup, but it's part of their show, and it's part of their whole costume, their look. But that was like, I could have been talking another language. It didn't matter to them, It's just like. But
so when did it change exactly? Like what was, and maybe in the Valley growing up, maybe we got things a little later, or something, because this is still pre-internet, right? So I don't know what it takes. Maybe MTV or something. I don't know what it takes for things to really reach us at that point. I was a pirate, I was really into Napster and stuff like that, whatever I could find during back in the day. But even then, I didn't know what I was getting, right? Like, I'd had to figure it out afterwards. So what grade was it when things were starting to become cool?
Cool in what sense? Because elementary, I got picked on for that, right? And then even in 6th grade, I would listen. At that point, I was listening to Korn, Pantera, Limp Bizkit. What was it at that point? Slipknot. And Slipknot was 6th grade going into 7th grade for me. This was 2000, 99, 2000, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would still get it. Like, I get bullied at that point. And I was just so like, hey man, like, I was super passive about it at that point. I just didn't know how to really stand up for myself.
Were you already like wearing the Kiss shirts, the Pink Floyd shirts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're dressing in black as a kid. I mean, it's weird. Like, I think we probably grew up in the same town, but like on different sides of the literal railroad tracks, and so there's different cultures. But it was weird. Like, what was cool? Like, what was cool in elementary? Like, I don't know, because I remember like being a wrestling guy before it was cool, and then it got cool, and then I wasn't even into it. I was like, fuck all these posers. Because last year,
I remember when it got.
See what I'm saying?
I remember when it got cool, man, and that was like, that was weird. Because I was also into wrestling. Because growing up in my neighborhood, which was there in South Donna, close to the elementary I went to. In our neighborhood, I had my best friend, their neighbor, and his cousin Jacob lived right across from me, and kind of everybody was related. I had a cousin Gus who lived there. All the kids, we all went pretty much like to go hang out at Jacob's house, and he was older, and so he always had all this music. So I got to hear like the classics from my dad, and then I got to hear the new music through Jacob, right, my neighbor in front, and then we would watch wrestling there.
Yeah.
So I remember when wrestling wasn't cool, and then once kind of like Stone Cold Rock era.
Yep.
That's what I remember. Everybody was like, "Oh, Stone Cold's so cool," or "The Rock is cool." That was weird. I was like, "You don't like wrestling. You don't know wrestling."
All right. Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah,
liking it when it was really corny, when it wasn't cool, and then it became like it just became part of the culture. Like, if you didn't like wrestling, if you weren't watching it, or if you at least didn't know what was going on, you weren't cool. As far as like the testosterone that was around us growing up at the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. I was gonna ask because, you're an only child between your blood parents, right?
Right.
And so, but you're also the oldest when you count all your siblings, correct?
Right.
Okay. So being the oldest, you have to be the one that shows your other siblings the cool stuff, right? But who shows you? So you had an older neighbor that got you into kind of stuff that your parents didn't know about, right? And everybody needs that guy, or everybody grows up with that guy, or sometimes you are that guy.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
I'm sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. No, go for it.
No, for me, that was Mo. Right on. Growing up, yeah. Like, a lot of times I would show him, I was so into blowing his mind, but it was rare, I can remember, he's going to hate me for this, but it is what it is. I can remember listening to music like something heavy. Oh, here's a great example. There's tons, and he just has to swallow this one. Iron Maiden, perfect example of just like, you have to hear this, and he was just like, what is this pussy shit, this power metal fag band? Like, I can't get into it. And I'm like, you're not giving it attention, right? He was really into like Cradle of Filth, Cannibal, 6 Feet Under type stuff, and he wasn't really listening until he discovered it on his own, right? But I was just trying to blow his mind, because this was the guy that, would show me stuff that, I watched Friday because of this guy, right? Like, stuff like that.
Oh, right on.
First time I ever smoked weed was this guy. He peer pressured me into it, but it took months. And finally at 12 years old, I was like, let me try it. But he was that guy for good or ill, and so any chance that I could where, I showed him Pulp Fiction for the first time, I was like, you got to watch this, right? I tried to blow his mind. And so growing up with him, he was like 2 years older than me, not a whole lot, but it's a whole lot when you're in elementary and he's in middle school, or you're in middle school and he's in high school, right? So you had that guy, and it was Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I remember is listening to Manson.
Hell yeah.
Listening to Smells Like Children.
Yeah.
And being freaked out.
Yeah.
But at the same time loving it, to the point that I had to buy the cassette.
Yeah.
That same week, I had to have it for myself. I was like, I want to listen to this with my headphones, and I remember I got it at the flea market. I found it, and it was so weird, because it has remixes and stuff on there, which I didn't know at that point.
Yeah.
But it was that Sepultura. I remember watching. He had the Sepultura has this one tape, or I guess. At that point it was a VHS, right? And it had like animation to some of their music, and it's real trippy. And that always stuck with me. Listening to The Prodigy, that was like some of the moments that stick out for me. It was just stuff that I didn't get either from my dad or listening, on the radio, because I would kind of listen to the radio at that point too. And then if I didn't get it from them, I also had a cousin in San Antonio, my cousin Danny, and he would show me stuff that I didn't know. And he was listening to more like I guess he'd probably be my main influence for Metallica, Nirvana for sure, like 100%. Like I think I got really into Nirvana because of him. A couple other bands, really. Pantera. The first time I heard The Great Southern Trendkill, it was because I would look through his CD case, and I would look to see what CD looked interesting,
Yep.
And that one has a like a skeletal picture of a rattlesnake wrapped around.
Yep.
And so I popped it in, and that was like my introduction to Pantera.
Don't you just wish that you could go back and hear something again for the first time with New Year's? Yeah,
there's something I was thinking. I think about it every now and then, but it's like with everything. I mean, there's nothing like your first, with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, music, and especially with music, it's like I'll tell you one of the weird ones. Maybe not weird, but kind of out there for me. One of the moments where I heard something for the first time, and I'll never forget it, and that was the Spice Girls, and not Wannabe, right, which was their first single, but Say You'll Be There.
Oh yeah.
And I heard it up in Austin, right, because it didn't actually hit the Valley radio till about 3 months after I heard it the first time in Austin.
Wow.
And it was Easter 97, and we were on the road, and the radio was kind of low, but I could hear the melody, and I had my dad turn it up, and it was just the harmonies, the instrumentation. I love that song. Say You'll Be There is a beautiful song. It's just
That is
the
so.
production.
That's so beautiful that you're saying that. I don't recall my first Spice Girls moment, but they're not ever talked about when it comes to their production, their melodies. No one ever talks about them that way.
Oh,
And so
it was great pop, man.
Totally great pop. So why did Spice Girls work back then?
I think it definitely was, timing was perfect. I think that they came up right before, would it be right before maybe like the big boy bands came back?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
the early 90s had their boy bands that kind of started like late 80s, went into the 90s and then kind of died out. And then you had R&B groups that had like boy bandish, but there wasn't anything like that.
Right.
That I can really point out. There was certain bands where it was all girls, like I can remember Veruca Salt, but not pop like that. And it was the whole thing. And I think maybe after I found out who they were, it kind of appealed to me too because of how, I don't want to say gimmicky, but each of the Spice Girls had their thing, and each of them could sing their style, and it was a beautiful blend. The music was straight pop, but I loved it.
Who was your favorite Spice Girl then, and who's your favorite Spice Girl now?
Then was Posh, and kind of Ginger too, but now I don't know. I don't really, I don't really have one now.
When I go back, it's because I went back and I heard Spice Girls. I don't remember why. And I was like, let me just deep dive and see what all this was about. Because I grew up with them. And it's like Sporty Spice did all the heavy lifting. And you didn't really appreciate that back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she killed it. She was the QB, but never really stole the spotlight, even though she had like the most killer pipes,
Definitely.
And for some reason couldn't turn around and, I mean, she had a few hits here and there, but she couldn't turn around and spin out a singles career. Maybe in some underground that I don't know, but I feel like she deserves much more praise and attention.
Definitely. I mean, it worked as a collective, and I think individually, like the one I remember, automatically was Ginger. She tried to come out with an album, and her single was "Look at Me."
Oh yeah.
And it was okay, but it wasn't the same dynamic,
Yeah.
Like there was just something about their group, the way that you could hear all five voices. They had something cool there, which again it's super random. Every once in a while I'll bring it up because it was just one of those moments where,
what is this?
Yeah, which I've had that with different groups.
What's another one?
I'll tell you the one that really I think changed everything for me was 7th grade. Actually, there was several in 7th grade. I got lucky. That was the year I heard a ton of different metal, and that first was Emperor.
Ooh.
And then I heard In Flames and
Whoa.
At the Gates. Yeah, this was like 2000.
Oh, you were ahead on all those bands. God damn.
Yeah, 2001, somewhere around there. And it was with another cousin of mine, Anthony. And he showed me those. Him and his friend showed me those guys. But the one that really took me was, that's when I got to listen to Opeth Blackwater Park album. And the song they played for me first was called The Drapery Falls. It's an 11-minute song, right? Which at that point for me, there was only a handful of long songs that I'd ever listened to. So I just remember laying there next to the stereo and just kind of being like, this is the same song? Yeah. It had all these different chapters of the songs. And that was the first time I'd really heard anything kind of like that.
The Drapery Falls. Wow.
The Drapery Falls, yeah. And
had they had an album before that, or was that their first album?
No, Blackwater Park is actually their 5th album, I think.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but it's the one that really changed it for them. They really did. You know, now that obviously they're one of my favorite bands. They're one of the only tattoos I have is of their O on my leg. You know, because that's how huge it was to me. It was the chords that they used, the arrangement, the mixing of acoustic pieces into metal and clean singing and then death metal growls. It was just a beautiful mix, and it still is. I can still listen to that song. I can listen to that song every day and never get tired of it.
Wow.
You know, and I've heard it thousands of times. And but yeah, it just it was another one of those times where that for sure changed the way I looked at music, which is huge, you know, because there's only several times in my life that it's ever happened.
Has it? This, you know, I don't want to skip the gun because I'm still tracing the Guillen footprints here, but has that moment? I call it a holy moment, right? Where you're just like, it's that moment where in the movie of your life, Steven Spielberg zooms in slowly on your face, and the audience realizes this is it, right? And if you're lucky enough to have those as a child, you're very blessed. Kids nowadays, and I'm trying not to sound like a get off my lawn type of curmudgeon, but you know,
yeah.
I have a 14-year-old son, and I'm you know, helping sculpt his brain and everything. And you know, me and Claire, after the Tool show that we went to, we were like, yo, low key, kids are fucking pussies, man. What do they got? Back in our day when you went to go sulk, I mean, you put on a song and you fucking sulked. The music was a portal, right? And now kids, they don't got that really. What I you know, and I know probably generations before mine said that, and generations before that, whatever. But truly, because music is sort of nebulous for them, it's not special. For them, it's water, it's Wi-Fi, it's just there in perpetuity. But for us, when you got an album, you were like, this is my world. I'm gonna steal this album. I'm gonna find this. I gotta make copies of this shit because I need to hold on to this, or otherwise I may lose it forever. Opeth, let me write that down, right? So I'll put a pin in that because that's a very special time in our cognition growing up, just as people, let alone as I look at you as a musician, almost first, right? Before I even think of you as anything else, a big brother or something. It's just the way I kind of met you and have grown up with you. But those sort of holy moments, have you had any, let's just say after high school or in the past, I would be specific and say 5 years?
That's tough to say. Definitely not in the last 5 years, I don't think. But it's different now, you know, because at that point, I was still, as a musician, I was still figuring out the way that everything's arranged, everything's put together. I was still learning my main instrument, which is obviously guitar. So I was still studying, you know, I was still learning. And
that's a good point.
The things that I study now are more production-wise or instrumentation, you know, and seeing, especially now that we have so much to go off of with software and plugins and, you know, the digital effects galore. There's so much you can do now especially like the accessibility of being able to record audio, manipulate it, and make it whatever you want. It just opens up a new portal. At that point, for me, music was again. I mean, we had Napster at that point and stuff like that. You could find new music. And that's the beginning of the mass access to music that you'd never hear. But it was still kind of like I could still be in awe of music, and I mean, there's moments where I'm still in awe, but not to that extent. And those holy moments, like you say, the Beatles did that for me. Hearing Pink Floyd, The Wall,
yeah,
and Dark Side in its entirety, and then for a long time I didn't listen to Welcome to the Machine. Or Wish You Were Here, excuse me. Sorry. I knew I had something wrong there. I didn't listen to Wish You Were Here in its entirety until, I think, senior year of high school.
Same.
And that blew me away.
Yeah.
And that's because I had already heard Dark Side and I had already heard The Wall, but I never gave that album its full due until then. That was probably the last time, senior year of high school was probably the last time where I really had moments like that.
To me, and maybe and here's the thing, like I'm a very, Claire tells me, like very romantic in terms of these sort of things, maybe too romantic, because that sounds almost like a tragedy to me. Like I chase that high like a fiend, like a crack addict. I chase it. I had a holy moment. I was must have been love. Sorry, I think it was in October, and of last year. I was in Seattle. I was in Washington, and so when I'm lucky that I get to travel and stuff and experience different waves, and that helps kind of get you out of a zone and then maybe open to something else. But I don't know what came on my radar on my Spotify, and I discovered lo-fi and just all these other weird Japanese sort of acts that just basically it's like emo pop in a way. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's very synthy and wavy and moody and just like how you feel when you're 36 hours no sleep at an airport, just lonely. Like I was like this right here, and I cherish that, because sometimes I'm looking for it. And sometimes it finds me, but you have to stay open to that. I'll say like from high school.
Oh, definitely.
From high school, 2006, we graduated at the same time for the listeners. And from 2006 to 2015, not only did I not listen to new music, I basically didn't listen to music, and I wasn't searching for music. I'm embarrassed to say. And kind of my Spice Girls moment was... what's it called? Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. And
really?
In tandem with Sia's Chandelier. It was like around this era.
Oh.
I was like, wait a second, what's going on? Like, is pop music like, because I was a guy that I listened to just the same shit that I heard in high school in 2015. Like if I was walking out the door, I had my Radiohead playlist, my Iron Maiden playlist, or I was just listening to podcasts. Like I was not into music. And so I had no idea what was going on. And so I was like, if this is what pop music is today, I'm in. Because if this is what like in the punk rock like sort of sense of like pop, it's garbage, right? But I'm like, if Wrecking Ball, if this is what we're calling garbage, holy fuck, I'm going to go in. And so I went back in and caught up on a bunch of stuff. And I'm still catching up. So the past 5 years of my life have been like, in love with music again, like I just stopped listening to it and wondered why I was so upset all the time, and plus there's so much, like Louis C.K. has this joke where there's so much porn on the internet, they can stop making it and we still have enough forever,
Yeah.
It's like that with music, I think. So anyways, that's a bit of a tangent, but I was curious about those holy moments because someone with your taste, like if you're having that in 2020, shit's got to be fucking really good for that to happen. But it seems like it's more and more infrequent.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think it comes back to when you're growing up, you have all these firsts and your new experiences and things like that. I think sometimes first can also, like with music, can be part of your environment. Like you said, you're lucky enough to travel, and sometimes if you find new music, not when you're traveling,
Mm-hmm.
it also adds to the whole thing. Because I have had that, but I wouldn't call it a holy moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that at this point, it's more like, since it's hard to turn off and just listen to things sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure, especially for someone like you when you hear it and you see all the strings, not just literally, but you can deconstruct a sound or whatever. You know exactly what somebody's going for, so you're kind of scientific in your approach, I'd imagine.
Right, and it's sometimes it really sucks, because I have a friend of mine, John, who for a good minute he would always be excited about showing me something new, right? And and I got to show you this. All right. He's like, well, let's see if you don't, deconstruct it right away.
Yeah.
And he starts playing something. I go, okay, well, I hear elements of this band and this band together, and I always see where they were going with that arrangement, and I could probably guess where they're going to go into the next part here, and it kind of takes away from it, because I think maybe once or twice ever was there something he showed me where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Mm.
So it's just the way that my mind processes things for some reason. I find it really beautiful when I listen to something and I'm not breaking it down. Like the latest thing I can think of was the newest Tame Impala.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what track it was, but there is a little interlude in the middle of the song, and a synth piece came out that was arpeggiated, and I was like, oh, I know I've used that sound before. I know I've come across it. And then so I took myself out of the song, and I'm thinking, oh, what software was I using, or what plugin was I using? And then I just completely go away from the song. Because I'm I hear things and I'm breaking it down, and I wonder how he did that, or I would have liked to have heard a different arrangement, or it's hard to turn off.
Yeah, totally.
It really
is. I know Tame Impala is gonna come to Austin in the summer. I'm not super into it, but maybe I'll just go and just vibe it out and see, and let it affect me. Like, I'm trying to become more open to letting experiences affect me as opposed to overthinking it. I don't know what happened to me.
They're a whole vibe, though. They're cool.
I bet. I've heard a few tracks that are just like, oh, that's cool, but for some reason I have like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and the foot that's out is like the cynical asshole in me that doesn't want to enjoy anything. But I can't trust that. I can't trust that guy. But wow, man, I'd be remiss if I didn't embarrass you and make your eyes roll and tell you that my first impression of you freshman year was like, oh wow, I didn't know fully formed, fully realized, fully crystallized humans were all, just walked around. And at my age, freshman year, I was like, oh, anything that I aspired to be, like this person's that, like a fully formed package. And freshman, like what am I doing wrong? Man. What am I fucking doing wrong? Like, I'm trying so hard. I'm still a try hard, but I'm trying so hard, and here's this guy. And it's not that it just came natural to you. It's none of those, like, I already knew. I was just like, whoa, but this guy, he had to have been doing this for years to be such a talented guitarist. I was like, fuck. While everybody else is learning power chords, this guy he's just on another level. That was my first impression of you. because we went to different middle schools, and so everybody congregated freshman year, right? And I looked at everybody from AP Solis with the side eye, but then there was you, and I was like, these fuckers got him the whole time. They got to enjoy Guillen the entire time, and now here he is, you know. And so you were like the closest, and this is for the listeners, and I'm sorry for embarrassing you, but it is what it is. From my looking glass, you know, you were like the closest thing to a celebrity in school. It was like you, I mean, I never really, I feel so bad saying this because now here I am dropping a name, but I won't say his name, even though I have no respect for him. But there was an aspiring rapper that went to our school who I think may still be trying to get put on. God bless him. I respect that. But even I could tell he was like maybe, I think he thought, okay, it's Sean Mecca. I'm just going to say it. But I think he thought that he was way better than he ever was. But there was a humility to you that I really liked. You're like, I'm just going to do my thing. I think here it is.
At that point, yeah, I think he was on that kind of level. I definitely, Sean's got a lot of hustle, man. And
he does.
Like now, I think, you know, he does have that humility. But I mean, definitely coming up, it was a different story, you know.
Yeah.
But
and
I think that also comes with the territory.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of that whole scene as well.
Right.
Yeah. I respect that. And here's the thing: whatever resentment I had, let me just say, put it out there because it's true. You know, and I'm older as well. Like it's just projected insecurity coming from me. You know, because all these guys are just so confident. You know, and I had classes with this guy too, so I got to know him. With, you know, when he wasn't putting on the character, the gimmick or whatever, but and he was an okay guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so insecure that these guys were so confident, you know, and I was just so inadequate and still am. So that was my first impression of you, and that light, I still see it when I hang out with you to this day, like a little kid. Still to this day.
Shit, man. I mean, that means a lot because I appreciate any time that I can have a conversation with you, because the way that you work, the way that I see it, is kind of like an inspiration to me, and it like I've told you multiple times. Had I not had that conversation with you in 2015, I might not have ever put anything else out ever.
That's,
you know,
you have to understand if hearing that, and I do not have a head about that at all, but it's just shocking. It's shocking. Like I can't believe it. I can't participate in the act of believing that. Can you walk me through that? Like let's kind of
yeah.
Let's hammer that out. And also, I just want to say that, you know, it was always cool. Like, I totally felt that, like, you were part of the group, or that I was part of this group, right? Growing up in high school. Like, I was like, wow. I you know, like, if Guillen's in the group, we're not losers. It's the way I felt. And but we also, and that's cool. And it was high school, you know, we had some classes or whatever. But like, there was it was out of high school where I felt like we kind of really bonded, right? And
right, definitely.
So let me ask you this, and I've never asked you this. With the pressure of, and I'm always so cringy about talking about high school because I'm an old man at this point, and I'm sure you are too. Cringy about it, but what's going on in your brain, like, you know, with the pressures of college and careers and all that shit that comes with every person, you know, transitioning from a senior to an 18-year-old civilian in life that has to now contribute to something or grow or whatever. Like, what was it supposed to be? What did it end up being? What did you want it to be? You know, or did you take your eye off the prize and focus on other things? And, you know, just I have a large my large blind spot with that for you, and I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. So senior year was the first year that I ever got in an actual band. I've only ever been in two formal bands besides our freshman year half band, or I don't know what you'd call it, Blue Hell.
Yeah, I would call it a blue hell. Nothing. I'd call it a nothing thing. I'd call it just a good memory, a good memory,
A concept.
a good concept. Yeah, but I think the idea, and I know this now, and I've talked to Dave about it. That my vision was not like, I did not, and I can't stress this enough. Like, people that know how to compose music, you have like alien brains. And I always known that I'd never had it, didn't have it, don't have it. But I had the visions, and I didn't know what filmmaking was yet, and I didn't know that I wanted to do that yet because we were freshmen during that project. But I knew that, here's what I want the music videos to look like. I was thinking that. So I didn't care about melodies and hooks, and like I didn't know. I didn't have the vocabulary, but I was like, once we have a song, I know what the visual package is going to look like. And that drove the shit out of me. Like, I still have papers of like concepts that would never happen of music videos, right? I just didn't know what the language was. I wasn't thinking. I didn't know.
Sense.
Yeah. But anyways, so for me, from my angle, I looked at that as like an alibi to get to the visual part, for sure. But
I see.
So anyways, just there it is.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like like a quick outlet to get to that point.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to me.
That's what I've always brought to the table, was just that. Like, that's what the backyard wrestling was. Like, I enjoyed it, but I never wanted to do it if we weren't going to film it. I wanted something to record. I wanted something to edit. I wanted something to cut to music to. Like, I wasn't going to do it if we weren't going to film it. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways.
Yeah. Well, so that year, honestly, looking future-wise, I really didn't have a direction. My dad always kind of said, well, if you're going to go to school, sure, set yourself up for school. If you're not, just work on your music. He didn't, neither one of my parents really pushed me into doing anything. And it helped in a way that I was able to just kind of be free about it, but at the same time, it also kind of hindered me because I needed a little bit of direction. And so I kind of was back and forth with whether I wanted to go to school. And at that point, I think I wanted to pursue doing music education. But at the same time, I also didn't want to because it just seemed still foreign to me, like in a formal setting. That year, I got in my first band, which was The Forsaken Divinity. And, I met, one of my great friends that still work with here and there to this day, which is Lee, who now works with his brother Abel with their band Ruin Cross. And, meeting him was a big thing too, because that opened my eyes to a lot of music. And so I felt like, okay, now I'm in a band, and maybe I can do something with that. And it didn't go anywhere. We had a lot of practices. We played one show, and that was all I did with them. But I thought it still gave me hope that, okay, maybe I can do something with this. Maybe I can actually be in a band. And there was a goal back then of getting signed and touring and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the goal. If it wasn't going to be school, then it was going to be being a signed artist and touring and meeting people and stuff like that. That was kind of where I was. But at the same time, senior year was pretty kind of a heavy year, honestly, for me. was going back and forth with kind of, that fear of what comes next and whether it was going to work out or not. And then I ended up joining a second band, which was Dog Mahalo, and that's the last band that I've actually been in.
Wow.
And,
When did you go your separate way? What year was that?
So with Dog Mahalo?
Yes, sir.
So I was in that band actually twice. From the first time was 2006 to 2007. And I'll tell you what, actually, one of those holy moments that I'll say was actually meeting the guitarist of that band, which was pretty much the founder of that band, Dog Mahalo, which is Louis.
Really?
Yeah, because his approach to guitar came from his background of playing cello or playing an orchestra, and so his one of his favorite bands was also Opeth.
Ooh.
And it was kind of the first time that I'd really met another guitarist who held Opeth to that same, esteem and took that into his writing.
Mm.
And at that point, I was barely getting into writing for myself. I'd only written, like maybe 5 songs, but they were structured to be something to be like crowd-pleasing songs. It wasn't anything heavy, or it was heavy, but it wasn't anything technical. At least I saw it as not technical. There's a few handful of people who have actually heard those songs, and some of them are cool. But anyway, that I will say is meeting him definitely also took my approach to writing. Like, oh, you know what? It's not unattainable. It is something that you can do and put in a song together. And meeting him definitely also heightened my playing, because there were certain things that certain approaches that he would take to the guitar when we would be writing, trying to write riffs. And if he had something new, he would show it to me. And I can remember one instance where he said, I originally played it one way. He goes, but that felt too easy, so I changed it around and I reversed it to make it hard on myself. So it's almost like, and I had never thought about that. I never took that approach to, if it's easy to play and it sounds good, okay, I'm good. But his concept of actually taking the natural and then making it hard to, almost kind of to advance yourself and to make it something cool to see, and something that's not usual. That definitely, that approach was foreign to me, and I always remember that, and I always keep that with me, because that was kind of huge.
Yeah, I've always thought that about you. I just didn't know if it was an egg or a chicken situation of what came first, but it sounds like he had an impact on you, and that's where that comes from. But yeah, I've always seen you as that guy that's like, yeah, no, we could go that way, but but that way is basic. Let's go, go this way. It's more compelling, it's challenging, and so my little plebe brain is like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to make it challenging? That just sounds like more work, but I totally see in a holistic sense how that approach is challenging and stimulating for sure.
And I think I would take that route sometimes. One thing I do go back to is, I want to say it was our junior year. Kerry King of Slayer went to McAllen, the Melhards, and he had this, like a clinic where he was having people come up to the stage,
oh wow,
play a Slayer riff, and then he would correct the riff and say, okay, you almost got it, but it's actually played like this, and then he'd show everybody how that riff was played. So I got to go up, and I chose Raining Blood. because I wanted to play what's known as the spider riff, which is it's just, it looks crazy, and it's, I guess for some people it's like a confusing riff, but it's actually just flailing on your fingers. And so I go up there and I play this one riff, and through the different guitarists, okay, you almost got it, and I go up there, and then he goes, I don't know what you just did. You put two guitar parts together, and you're playing it as one. He's like, I only play it like this. So he played like half the riff.
Whoa.
And so that was kind of like, especially at that time.
Are you fucking kidding me? I don't think I ever knew that. I mean, now I know what that means. Maybe you said it in the day, and I was like, huh? But now I know what that actually means. And what do you think about that?
I don't know. It was kind of cool, man. It was a little weird though.
What did it?
Because at that point, I looked at Slayer like, these guys are like, they're like metal gods, like everybody that's in these huge bands are metal gods. And then I play something, and then he's telling me, well, you're playing double of what we play.
Wow.
So it kind of messed with me, kind of like, okay, well, maybe I should just continue playing guitar, and almost like a validation, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, that's part of every artist's journey, is meeting a master that sort of validates them and says, yeah, it's like how do you know when you go from amateur to pro? How do you really know? For some people, it's a college degree, right? But for you at 16, I'm getting that? Like, holy fuck. And so, not to be selfish, but just to kind of, you and me are both privileged in our own ways, And so my personality type, to combat my manic depression, or maybe it's like part of the depression, like, the highs and the lows. I think this is the highs talking. When I was 16, that's when I realized that I've always said it's when I activated, right? Like the born identity, like something in me that was like, it turned on. It was always in there, dormant. And when I was 16, I saw Kill Bill, and in the first 40 seconds of that movie, I was like, oh, that's what I am. So I'm 16, and I have that moment. And then basically you're 16, 17, and you go on stage with Kerry King in public and kind of blow his mind and kind of one-up him at his own fucking game that he created. At 16, 17, like, so just to kind of illustrate, and to this day now, like as a 32-year-old with kids, I try to maximize my privilege. I try to pay shit forward and not make it all about me. And sometimes it hurts myself, but I try to do that. Not for humility or karma points, but just because it's not ever supposed to be about me. It never was. Like, I'm a behind the camera guy. Not
right.
The in front. It's never supposed to be the Knives Monroe show. And so, but it does blow my mind that, so I try to maximize my privilege now, because now I have something, but it's taken this long. But at 16, Mr. Adam Guillen, you got skills, man. You had crazy, crazy, crazy skills. And I know you know it. And you're very humble about it, too. But at 16, this is why, like, for me, like, and everybody, I'm speaking for everybody that ever knew you, and had the privilege of seeing you wail on guitar in front of them. You were just a different fucking alien, man. And here's the thing, in my opinion, and once again, this could be the romantic side of things. I don't want to say the idealist, because I'm a realist enough to know that Earth is gonna fuck you. That's just part of it. Dr. Dre got fucked. Right. Everybody, like the best of the best of the best, they get fucked. That's just part of it. Can you take the bullets and keep going? That's the difference. And so for me, it was like, Guillen is destined. He's one of those. I don't got that, but he's one of those. And so he can be this shooting star that goes wherever he wants. With this skill, with that talent that everybody prays and hopes for and works so hard to attain. If I had started guitar freshman year, I wouldn't be where you're at right now. Like I mean, how many people tried it and failed? Everybody. Maybe there's one or two, maybe. But even then, they're not at your level. So for me, like I really feel like, like in golf, I don't play golf, but if you're trying to hit a hole in one and you miss by 30 feet, well, really, you miss by like 1 millimeter when you hit the ball. You didn't miss by 30 feet. You missed by 1 millimeter. So you just need to do something different just a little bit, and it changes the trajectory to get that hole in one. And it's the same thing with art and life. Like sometimes you think you're way off the mark, but you're really just a millimeter away, or like another at bat, another opportunity, another whatever, another rep away from something, So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for going on a rampage, but hearing that is just amazing. Like, how many people get to do that? That's honestly, and people need to know, for those that aren't metalheads, I mean, first of all, shame on you, but this particular guitarist, some people would put this guy on the heavy metal guitarist Mount Rushmore. So I'll just leave it at that, But that's like going up to Eminem and being like, well, here's how I do Rap God. And he's just like, oh, you did it. Well, technically you did it at 1.5 speed. I do it slower than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
It's basically that.
That's pretty wild.
It is wild. Jesus Christ. So,
I guess it's hard for me to see it. Like, looking at it in that light, I guess that is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It was a cool moment for sure.
That was half your life ago.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Pretty nuts.
So
it's been
I'm taking some notes down. It's what I do when we do these mobile shows, because I want it to have a backbone, and it does. But there's a loose end that I distracted you with, and I'm sorry for that. I get excited, but
oh no.
So your first tenure with Dogma Hollow, 06 to 07, and then how did you hang up those boots on your second and last tenure?
Well, the first time around, 2007, kind of a bummer, man, because the reality was everybody in the band everybody was great. Everybody had some kind of musical training. Every single one of us listened to all different types of music, and those different influences would come through in every song. And when I first joined the band, I was only adding in my parts. We played 4 songs, and I added in my parts. And little by little, as I was getting acquainted, I started writing more. And, I would write maybe a quarter of the riffs, and then it was like a half and half thing. And then at that point, I was still very much feeling like I needed to jump back into school. I needed to have something to fall back on. So we were gaining a lot of traction at that point. The last show I played, that first round with Dogma Hollow, was in Austin. And we played our set, and I thought it went great. And then really at that point, if we had fully committed with that lineup, I think we probably could have gone and, I think if we would have recorded at that point and tried to put out all the music, it definitely would have got noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody at that point had kind of other things going on, and so we ended up I left with the whole thing that I was going to go to school, and I wanted to put my full focus on that. And then the bassist left, and then Dogma Hollow went on with, different instances, different members. At one point, I think they stopped playing. And then in 2009, I went back with Dogma Hollow, and we had the intention of of making shorter songs, and something that really hit. Making the riffs have a point. Because where we were writing in 2007 was still really progressive, extreme metal, but it had mellow parts. Because we're all obviously inspired by a lot of bands who had that mix of mellow and metal and heavy, but not afraid to delve into ambient sounds and things like that. And then in 2009, it was focused. We're going to have short, hard-hitting songs, something fun, but still metal and still not cookie cutter metal, basically.
Right.
And we had a good thing going, and then it fell apart again. And in 2009, I really don't remember why. It was probably because that's when I actually went back to school. So I was probably on that whole mindset again for myself. But I know that it ended up taking on new members again shortly after that. And
so did you ever finish?
That was pretty much it.
Did you ever finish school?
No, man, I didn't. I went for a year in Brownsville studying music education, but I wasn't focused enough. I mean, the music side of everything was easy. I got it. I didn't even have to study a lot. In most of what we learned, I would learn in the class study, and I would review it, and I was fine. But I didn't take enough time to really. I was going for voice training or for vocal education, and I didn't take enough time to really give my effort. At that point, I was just kind of I was okay being there, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then I went and I did another year in Weslaco, and that was it. I never went back to school.
So from 2010 to 2020, what have you been doing?
So since I didn't go back, what I ended up doing was, I worked different spots. In 2012. So okay, let me go back. I started getting ahead of myself. So in 2010, I had started finishing up some songs that I had been writing, and I did my first set of what was like a sample EP with 4 tracks, but I didn't put it out.
Produced and performed entirely by yourself?
Right. At that point, I'll tell you. At that point, I would program. At that point, I'm programming my drums, and then even programming my bass. At that point, recording my guitars and recording my vocals, programming my synths and everything. Because I didn't even have a MIDI keyboard to actually play notes or nothing. I had to program every single thing that was in my music that wasn't guitar or vocals.
Oof.
And then at that point, I was also using an old computer, and this is how heavy it was trying to even make a track. So I would have to. So when you're recording, let's say I'm doing a guitar, I have my track where I can record the guitar sound, the signal, and then on that track I have to input if I want EQ on there, if I want a distortion on there, or a delay, and sometimes they have things where you can do all in one. Well, my computer was so slow that I couldn't actually play the sound with everything on there on even just one track.
Jesus.
So I had to do everything individually, listen to it, guess what I had to do in the EQ settings and distortion wise, and then render each individual file, audio file, and then put it all together and hope that it sounded okay.
Hope. Cross your fingers and then hope.
Yeah, and then if not, go back and do the same thing over, and which was tedious, but it was also really good because it got me to learn process, to really fine tune. Even though I don't think I'm very great at production, I still learned a lot, and I've still learned so much studying and reading and watching videos, and any little bit that I can get, there's someone's take on how they do a certain how they use certain software, how they use their EQs or compressions. I'll watch, and I'll never stop learning. But at that point, I was like, okay, I gotta record proper. So luckily, my friend Isai, he built a computer that could actually handle everything, all the processing and things like that. So in 2012, I finally decided, okay, I have enough songs. I'm gonna put an album out, and that was my first release, which was Eclipse, that I put out in June of 2012.
Wow.
Which was years in the making, pretty much.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, cool. I never knew the story behind that, nor did I know that it took that long. See, this is also how ignorant I am to the process. Like, I remember, I think I've told you this before, like, say you hear Yesterday by the Beatles. When you hear it, you assume that, yeah, he just picked up the guitar and then recorded it. That's it. You just think it's that easy, until you realize that, no, that it probably took months to really build and record that and to make that perfect and to put it down. And the version you hear is, a composite of 8 different versions or maybe more, right? Maybe not with Yesterday.
Right.
I used to think it was, you just went in and it came out, right? And that's a testament to musicians who leave no flaws or air bubbles in their work that just make it look that easy. It's the same thing with movies. Like, it's not just they just point the camera. Like, literally, they start with black, just this black room, and then you gotta light different sources and build a wardrobe. And there's so much work. I mean, it takes a team of hundreds of people to make a real good movie. It's the same thing with albums. So, yeah, by then, I mean, I had no idea how long that process took you. How was putting it out there? How was the feedback? I mean, how do you know if it was a success in your eyes?
Well, so to me, it's always like putting out music has always been it's always been that I make something because there's nothing that's out that is like it, or like, if I hear something that I want to hear and I can't find a band that's already made a song like that, then I got to put it out. I got to record it. I got to make it.
Yeah.
That album is actually the one that pretty much anybody ever talks about. So I've done other things, but it was the one that when I put it out, it made its way on the pirate sites. And I've found different websites that talk about it, and well, especially back then, I was real curious. Does anybody like it? Does anybody like it? Is anybody gonna download it? I didn't care how it got out. At that point, so I put it up on my Bandcamp, and my musician friends, they'll talk about it. I met another musician maybe about a month back or 2 months back, and he tells me, "You're Guillen." Yeah, he goes, "Oh, okay, well, Joe Dan showed me your album, the one with the world on it." And I go, "Oh, okay, Eclipse, yeah." He goes, "Yeah, man, it's and he dug it, right?" So at this point, it's already been like 8 years. I hardly listen to it, like, at all. There's a couple riffs that I, still play off from there here and then. But the fact that people still like it now, I guess, is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I would probably repackage it today and kind of re-debut it, on Spotify or something. It'll be new to so many new people.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I've used Bandcamp as my outlet to put my music But really, it's kind of
To be fair, this was before Spotify, so totally.
yeah. The streaming services definitely weren't as big as they are now, for sure. I mean, now it's like you need to be on those streaming services, and because I mean that's where I listen to all my music, unless I see a local band or something that links to a Bandcamp or something else. You know, other than that, I'm listening on my Apple Music. So I mean, I definitely want to put all my music out. I think on like Spotify for sure. Everybody's on there, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, dude, I went all in on this podcast on Spotify, even above Apple Podcasts. You know, I basically only hype up Spotify. But I also built a playlist of every podcast I've ever made, and so I feed that playlist, right? So it's just like trying to squeeze as much juice out of this lemon as possible, just so if people search for it, they can find it in a package that works for them. It's always been about that. And I think filmmaker brain has helped me understand the packaging of something and where it's supposed to go. Because it's all a presentation, you know? And so what is the... I learned this when I screened my first movie in a theater, and I was like, oh, wow, like, it's all about this. Had I had this in mind when I was making it, this could have been an even better experience, right? I wasn't... Because, you know, at the time, I was just trying to make a good script, or I was trying to, you know, just cast somebody. And there's so many different micro successes that you're trying to reach towards that when... I was so burnt out that when I finally got to the premiere, like, I was checked out, man. Like, I was just checked out. But I did learn, like, oh, you know, the fact that I put trailers before this movie, none of those movies ever came out, but that really helped congeal this sort of conceit that, oh, we're watching a real movie. People bought into it, you know? And so the presentation of something... You got to be able to get it to the people. Like, how are they going to watch it? They're going to see it on an iPad. How are they going to hear it? You know, it's no longer about making cassette tapes and stuff like that. And for music, I'm probably not the coolest, smartest, hippest person to talk to about that. Once again, I'm a visual guy. So once you got music videos, I mean, I think I know how to roll that out. But or whatever visual accompaniment that this is going to have or whatever. But yeah, I would definitely put that on, you know, and also you can upload WAV, and so it's going to sound good on Spotify forever. That way it's there, right? Like, I'm always scared about, you know, going back to my first movie, like, I don't have the raw files. I don't have the other takes.
Right.
That shit is gone. And I made the conscious decision to delete it for hard drive space. Like, I was like, I don't want to hold on to this. What am I going to do? Remake my movie? Well, fuck. You know, if I ever lose say YouTube gets shut down, and if I ever lose my movie file, that movie's gone. It never existed.
Yeah.
That's scary to me, and that comes with reps, right? Like, now I would do that different. Now there's a cloud, thank God. But hey, that's not forever, right? So, shit. Put a clip.
I don't trust the cloud, man.
Put a clips on vinyl. Just to have it, because you never know.
That would be beautiful.
You can do it.
Yeah, it's true. I just, you know, okay, so going back to, I put out Eclipse in 2012. From then on, I wrote pieces, but I never put anything together until 2015, which is that album's Way of the Future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost as long as Eclipse is, but it has less songs. And I wasn't going to put it out because it just, I didn't think it held to the same as Eclipse. It was definitely a different set of songs. And I felt like I had to stay, if I'm going to put out something with Guillen, it has to stay in the extreme metal category. It can't just be metal or, you know, more straightforward than I guess the technical side of metal was. And that's when I talked to you, and you told me about the movie and how you didn't even have, you know, the raw files of your movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, fuck it, I got 1 million more.
That's right. Yeah.
Why am I going to,
yeah,
focus on this one that I don't have.
Yeah.
I got a million more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, shit, like, it's true. Like, put it out. And that's still been your, that's still been your advice. Just put it out.
Mm-hmm.
Put content out. Someone wants to listen to it. Someone's going to watch it. Who cares?
Yeah.
And it's hard to turn that off. It's hard to turn off the worry. As every artist, any type of artist, whether it's film or music or physical art or digital art, poetry, I mean, whatever, anything that you're putting out, it's personal, because you created it, and it's hard to turn off that anxiousness, that is anybody going to like it? Why am I sharing this? If no one cares, like, obviously you're doing it for yourself, mostly,
Of course.
A true artist, who can say what a true artist is? But when you're passionate about what you're doing, it's something you care about, and then putting it out there for everyone to see or to hear or enjoy, it's hard to, like, turn that off. But you do definitely say, just put it out. Who cares? And because the truth is, you can never know what someone's going to like. You don't know what's going to hit at what time, or
that's right.
Who's going to enjoy it, who's going to listen to it, who's going to watch it. You'd never know. You can never guess.
And also, you don't know how many days you have on the planet as well. Like, something could have happened, and you could have you could have had a stroke, or I don't know, something, and now you can't play music anymore, right? With your hands.
True.
Like, I think about that it's very real to me. And it sucks. Like, it scares me. Like, it adds a sense of urgency. Like, I've always had that sense of urgency, and I don't know why. Like, I think it's part of whatever trauma that's in me, to just be like, if I don't do this now, I never will. Like, I really believe that. The day that fire, like, dies in me, I think I'm done. Like, I can't, I'm not super worried about that fire dying. I don't see it dying, but that really, quote unquote, motivates me to get something out. It's just, I don't know how much time I have. I can die. I need to do it now. I need to say this. I need to call this person and tell them I love them right now, right? Or whatever. That kind of urgency is very real to me. There's so many people that just think they have infinite tomorrows.
Infinite, yeah, that's true.
I don't feel that lucky or something. I don't know. Who knows? we all got a time, right? We don't know when it's going to be, but it's never when you want it, right? So I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I think about, and I struggle with this too, as a guy that I'm not as prolific as I want to be by any means. Like, I was pretty busy from 2016, 17. I felt pretty busy, creative content wise. And then I don't think anybody heard from me like 2018, 2019, really, until I got this new job. And then now I feel like I can play my music my way now. And I've been trying to do that, and I'm still experimenting. Like, I'm my own guinea pig in a lot of ways. And so I also struggle with not overthinking, but it's way easier to not overthink when you're with other people and other creatives, because then it's about
100%.
Then it's like, not in a cocky way. I don't feel this way, but like, example, like when we were building Cultosaur episodes, it wasn't like, well, I hope Mark likes my script. I hope he uses my idea. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just like, I felt like we all knew the funniest thing that made each other pop was going to be the thing. And we had improvised this sketch, if you want to call it, where Nugget didn't have any fingers. We just improvised that, like, at an audition. And it made us laugh so much that Mark went out and wrote it. And it became the first sketch in the first episode, of the show. And it was just fun, like, wherever it came from. But it wouldn't have came from anywhere if we were just stuck at home overthinking this. There's something about getting out of the house and being with other creatives. Ain't nobody really second guessing in that in that world, you know? It's just about what's the best riff, what's the thing that makes us move. There it is. Now put a beat to that. Great, there it is. And now here's what I'm saying, here's what I'm feeling, or whatever. Like that, what do they call it? Jamming, right? Like, I live for that. Like, I feel like that's where I take flight. That's where I can sail, you know? But I go crazy, like home by myself, with a phone or a camera, like all this fancy equipment just to film me. Fuck that. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I ain't trying to get a $2,000 lens to film me. Like, I it's not what I'm about, you know? And one of the reasons why I fell in love with podcasts is I can do it every day. And if I got nothing, wherever I am, I have an internet connection, cellular or otherwise, and I have my phone, I can make a podcast. Like, I can't tell you how many I've made 2 minutes to midnight to meet my goal, you know? That's a 1 minute, like, blah, here I am, blah. And that's, I don't care, you know, and some days they're like this, they're robust, they're grandiose. Like, this is an epic sparring fight with one of my most beloved friends that's a creator as well, and I live for this. Like, before this phone call, we have this kind of like we have these stairs in our house, and underneath the stairs is a little tiny room that's like made for a dog. It's like a dog house, but my daughter likes to chill out there. I was asleep in there before this interview or talk or whatever, before this podcast. Like, and everybody was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just wanted to get away and like get away from everybody. I needed to recharge. I'm always in a perpetual sadness, like in just a cocoon like state. I just want to pupate and get out and turn into this beautiful butterfly. I just want to be a butterfly, but I'm always regulated to being in this cocoon, and I hate that. Like, that's like a ball and chain for a creative, and I don't have anybody else to blame. I told you this, you know, the other day.
Yeah.
I moved away from my friends for more opportunities, so it's my fault, right? You got to take the good and the bad. It is what it is. But so here we are now to the present, and I don't want to put you on blast, and I'm sorry, and I'll cut this out if you don't like it and whatever. But you had posted out there that, hey, I'm thinking about going back to the oil rigs, you know? Anybody have any recommendations? And from what I understand, I never did it, and I know you've done it before because you're an actual man, unlike me. Dude, when I build a resume, it's like Burger King, McDonald's, Walmart. Like, it's really embarrassing. But it's all, I mean, I went all fucking in on this. But I've also been homeless, and I've also, you know, gone 4 days without eating, and I stumble across a bucket of popcorn, and that's what I ate that day. Like, you know, it's whatever. I'm not saying it's smart. It's sad. Anyways, so when I saw that post, I was like, hey, there's no shame in that. Go do that. Go make some money. But flash forward 2 years from now, like, you're going to be in this spot again. You're going to be right here saying, like, what do I want to do? You know, you can't sustain that. You could make 6 figures, but then you're going to spend that money, right? Like, that's all cool. What is something meaningful that you want to do that you find worth your time? What is something that's like of worth to you? Because, like, it's got to start with that, right? Something that's fun, that you want to do, that you could do every day. Like, what does that look like, first of all? I'm curious. And then you can figure out the money part. But what's the thing that fires you up that would help you get out of the house, baby?
You know, well, so the other day, right, I reached out to you about how you work, right, and about being around creatives, because I think that I feel like I'm at my best whenever I have someone around. It doesn't even have to be someone that's creative. But I feel like in the last couple months, well, first of all, like in 2020, I've played more music and been writing more than I did in the first 2 months, all of last year.
Whoa!
Like last year, I wrote a song for my at that time girlfriend. and then I recorded a cover, and maybe one other thing. But I didn't put, I don't think, anything out. And I purposely did that.
And how do you feel about that? Do you feel okay with that?
I'm okay with it because it sounds terrible, and a lot of times I know that I kind of take to get to the point where I am now, right? Where if I want to write something, I can write it, and I have the arrangement in my head. I can play with instrumentation, and it may not be the greatest recording, but I will get my idea out. I can. Well, just like when you ask me to work on anything for you, I love that, right? Because it gives me something. It gives me a goal.
Yeah.
And it's something specific. It's a challenge for me.
It's always quality.
I appreciate that.
It's true.
And it gets me. It gets me to challenge myself. How quick can I do it? And it be good. Or is it gonna be something I struggle with? And it never is. The thing that holds me back at any point is overthinking.
Yes.
Other than that, I sit down. I pick up, like I said, with the intro. I sat down. I played with the bass for about 20 minutes. I found the riff. I recorded it. First take, maybe second take. Picked up the guitar. Found what I was going to do. Picked out my sounds. I had 2 sounds for you to choose from, pretty much. And I knew where it was going. Last year, I just decided that I was going to take myself away from it completely to see how I felt. Because I've done that in certain years where I don't play very much guitar. And when I come back to it, I just kind of feel refreshed. I remember, why I fell in love with playing guitar. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is because I've been playing since I was 8, and not that I've done a single thing of merit that I feel, but I've been playing to the point where sometimes I get cynical about it, and maybe it's also because I don't put enough out, or I haven't before, and so I just kind of feel like last year, definitely, I just wasn't in the right mindset to even want to write anything. I had a lot to say, and I just still didn't want to write. I just felt like very cynical. Like, what was the point? It was a terrible way to think, but I've gotten out of that, and I've been writing a lot more now. Now it's more about, like you said, presentation. That's an afterthought for me, and it's kind of one of the things that hinders me. The only time I've ever thought about that was, I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent. I got away from your initial question.
No, I like it.
But the only time I ever thought of presentation was the last full album that I put out, which was Into the Void at the end of 2016. And when I was finishing it up, I started one of the songs that I had done. I put it out as like a single release. Mm-hmm. And then I made just a still frame YouTube video for it so that I can put it out on that end also and link that. And I was making Instagram clips for it that, I had never done anything like that.
Right.
It was super basic. I don't know how to use Photoshop. I use a freeware thing called Inkscape, and it's like a freeware Photoshop, I guess. I figure out what to do here and there just by searching little shortcuts and things like that and playing with it the same way I did with software initially for recording. And that helped a lot. That was the first time I saw, okay, if I actually think of the presentation, if I hype it before it comes out, if I do everything that everybody does on releases, like official professional releases, it builds that hype. It gets people interested and gets people listening. Yeah, but that's the only time I've ever really done it. So I think anything that I put out now, I want to do that same type of presentation.
I think I didn't used to be this way, but you just like you put stuff out there. With my first movie, I sold out a theater, and I didn't do like a lot of like I went to people's houses. Like I look back, like I was a politician about it. Like I called people, I made people go. But the second movie that I made, I just assumed everybody was going to show up, and I didn't sell it as hard, and we didn't even pack it like half the amount. And that's when I learned, oh fuck, like you can't rest on those laurels. Like you have to go through those motions and hit all those bells every single time. You have to. By the time we did like Dogma 15, or the third movie, and then you did the music for, which was so cool. Like I just played the whole track. And it's in twice. You hear it 2 times. Anyways, we were much more thoughtful about, okay, how are we going to do this? So we called the newspapers. Like we did all the bullshit you're supposed to do. Like same thing, we had more people a part of it. So presumably if everybody, it's like kind of like a show, like if everybody brings a person, right? Like that.
Right.
And so now that I do a bunch of quasi documentary stuff, I can make videos all the time for my work and everything. I've learned, like, I start with the presentation first, and I don't know how, like, somebody like, I don't like Taylor Swift, I don't like her music, I respect her for the workhorse that she is, all that, but
right.
Obviously she has a team, I have to assume, of like maybe a dozen or more people that bring her in, and she kind of picks out idea, like, I don't know how it works, but you have to start with a presentation or like a silhouette first, and then here's what we're going to do, here's the vibe, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like they say, like when you're writing a book, you're selling it a year before it comes out, like, before you drop it. And so I've learned through a lot of failure and reps, like to start with a presentation first. Like with a movie, the reason why I haven't made a movie in 5 years, an actual feature film, is because I can't find a presentation that excites me enough to do all the tedious back-aching work that I would have to do by myself and to pay for it. Like to pay a cheap movie today would be $5,000. Like that's a cheap movie, and I could pull it off. But the presentation, like I need to know what the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever. I need to know what that experience is to know how to hack the culture to get their attention, so when I drop it, it can impact at the highest velocity. That's the idea, right? With no money to spend on advertising, right? So it sounds real slutty and it sounds real markety and all that, but like you eventually learn that. Like you have to learn it with like with all those reps. If I had stayed in my head and was still overthinking Her Doppelganger, my first movie, and Dave and I were trying to perfect the first draft, like we would have, I wouldn't be talking to you right now in this way. It's the same thing with my podcast. Like kind of like you, in 2018, I did 2 episodes, maybe 3. 2019, I did like 7 or 8. I ramped it up like the last couple of months, but I didn't really upload. I was so inconsistent. I was like 1 a month. Now I'm doing 1 a day. Like that's the presentation of this show, is he does it daily. Now it's like a journal-y sort of road diary thing. That's the conceit. And as soon as I know what that is, I can fill in the blanks. It's like knowing, for your brain, like you don't just do verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse. You don't just do that, So it's more complex when you're trying to be like, I'm going to do this. I don't even know what a bridge is. I still don't know what a bridge is, right? But like there's people that do that. There's like, I'll look on Genius, like on a lyric or whatever, and it'll be like the pre-chorus. I'm like, what the fuck? There's so many pieces, when you're composing something. So I'm very like, if I was going to write a song, I'd be like, what's the big picture? What's the shape? Cool. And then we start sculpting, right? Subtracting or adding or whatever. But I felt that way with Way of the Future. Yeah. Like I felt like, oh, he's getting me excited, and I'm starting to get a taste of this before it came out. And so when it came out, everybody was like, oh, I don't know. For me, it was like bye or whatever. It was like, cool. Now we're satiated. We're primed for it, right? Eclipse,
Yeah.
Eclipse. Eclipse to me was here it is, fuckers. Here's my solo thing. You know, it was like, okay, cool. We've been waiting for this, you know, and it was a different time. Like, we were still on our computers. Like, I'm never on a computer. Well, that's not true, but like,
true.
I don't browse on a computer. Like, not anymore, really. You know, so.
Yeah, the only reason I use a computer now is pretty much for recording. You know, everything else is on the phone.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I do everything on a phone. I do everything on a phone now. Like, how can you not? Like, how can you not? But okay, so tangent aside, a part of me wants to, hey, if you want to go out on the oil rigs, do some man work, make a fortune, do it. Fuck yeah, come back and fuck off. Like, that's great. Maybe fund another project with that. You know, that's cool. But before you do that, when I saw that post, I was like ready to write this essay and be like, wait, don't. But before, like I said, there's no shame in it. Do it. Do whatever you want. But I knew, like, you know what? Now I'll just have this conversation with him on the show instead. And whatever, like, you need to know and reverse engineer, and it's work. What gives you a boner every day? Like, what do you like to do? How do you like to show up? What excites you? If it's not music, that's okay too. If it's not picking up a guitar, that's cool. Well, what is it? I think no matter what, that's worth your time and investment in doing. And so I'm curious to what that is for you. I'm not going to let you off the hook.
Music.
Could you say that again? I said, I'm sorry. I said there's like a little lag. I said I'm not going to let you off the hook. But what did you say? I interrupted you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's music. I mean, definitely, if there's something that can always pretty much excite me, it's music. But I mean, everything kind of felt like in a lull for me, and I think that's another reason why I kind of got away from playing, was I wanted to be refreshed, you know, because it's.
Yeah.
And I think also too, I need to get away from being afraid of working with others. You know, it's kind of like I've done. I mean, I've worked with others. I mean, the one person I think I've collaborated with the most is gonna be Lee. You know, with on his older stuff with A Forsaken Divinity. I got to do vocals on a couple tracks, and then I go and he shows me his music, and I'll tell him what I hear, you know, and I love that. That I really do love. I love going in and listening to someone's music, and when they want me to listen to it and tell me what they hear, if I hear an idea, that definitely excites me a lot.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, like kind of producer stuff. It not in the sense of the technical producing, because I will get some of those ideas, but those I get more on my own stuff. But more like composition-wise, arrangement-wise, when I listen to someone else's music, my mind goes. It just takes off. Oh, you can go here, you can go here. I hear this. I hear a vocal melody like this. I see the colors, you know?
Yep.
That definitely excites me. But music is always going to be the one thing that excites me. If I could do something, it would probably be to play, and that be my, like, to play, maybe tour, and then be like a co-producer on something.
Yeah.
You know, to bands that need direction, you know, or can't finish songs, things like that. That's one of my biggest fortes. I can take you. I can finish it. I can say go this route or this route, you know, or take the collective and say I would hear you doing this, you know, like a consultant, I guess.
There's a
that
guy.
makes sense. I guess it would be producer.
It makes total sense. I don't know. I'm stupid, and this is a bad example. I apologize, but so I don't like Maroon 5. Who I'm sorry if you do. They're not really for me. So they had that song called Memories. So once again, if that's if you like it, cool. I'm not that into it, but I know that the person that basically wrote that song, that's what he does, right? Like he writes hits basically for people, and he has like a hip hop background, and so I forget his name, and that's why I was nervous about bringing him up, but I think, and so when I found that out, I was like, you see, that's what I'm talking about. I like learning that, because if you look at that song in particular, supposedly there's like 8 writers. It's like, what? How does that? But it makes sense, because basically, whoever's in the room, right? Sometimes, right? It's like, well, this guy's in the room, and so they know how to put the button on this, right? Or they contributed a verse or whatever. And then there's the music, and then there's the vocals, and there's the lyrics, and like it's all kinds of. Writing is really relative in a way, because the drums, that's part of the writing. So I'm not really doing a good job in explaining like that co-producer.
No, I get where you're going,
you
though.
Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that to me, like, is we don't put that position on a pedestal enough in culture. Like, I always loved learning after the fact that, like, oh yeah, Prince wrote that. What? Prince wrote that? Shit like that, right? Like I live for that, like knowing who's behind the scenes that takes it to the next level. I love that stuff. Like, I'm a big.
Like Bruno was like that.
Was he?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
That's what before he like went and did his, like actually blew up on his own.
Mm-hmm.
He was that. He was making songs for other people and stuff like that. Or being parts of the song sometimes, but he actually wrote it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm a big fan of Sia. She had an album out called, oh gosh, why don't I know this? Hold on, I'm going to look it up. I'm ashamed. Oh, it's called This Is Acting. Great album.
Oh, right, yeah.
And basically, it's composed of songs that she intended for other people, but she was like, I'm going to sing this, right? But like she wrote Diamonds for Rihanna. Exactly. Her Smash Alive was intended for Adele, right? Shit like that. And so I love that. Like if I had that ability in music, I'd do it. But I feel like I definitely have that with video. I would have ideas when I was doing Dakota Meyer's video work, and I was like I did everything. Like he never told me, let's try this. Like I did everything. And I
the director.
Exactly. And so it was cool because it was him. All I had to do was just push the button. But I would do experiments on his Instagram, because when he had 300,000 Instagram followers, I was like, well, I wonder if this would pop. And so it just proved to me that like my theory, it was like validation, like you said, with the Kerry King thing. Like to me, that was what that was for me, except I was 30. I was like, oh, my ideas aren't shit. Like, but with this Dakota Meyer packaging, like it really resonates with his crowd. And so I was like, oh, so if I do it and I get like 3 likes and 4 views, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that's the attention that I have. But with this guy's platform, the idea, achieves the results that I was intending, whatever that was. And I'm not trying to be braggadocious about that, but it was just like, oh, it's like having a song and it doesn't work when I play it, but if I give it to this artist, it works because they already have that sort of platform, right? Therefore it's a good song technically.
Right. See, that kind of takes me to back in 2017. My brother has always wanted to do like songs. He's always wanted to do like hip hop songs and like rap and stuff. And I make different beats and he'd always say, oh, we got to do something on that. And I want to say it was that year I made a song with them called Goodfellas. And it was weird for me to go into that, but I did it. You know, it was something he wanted to do, and I think I have it still on my Bandcamp page. It's way different, and it's like something that I never thought I would do. You know, to even try to venture into like hip hop, even though I love rap and I love hip hop, but it's not what people see initially, and it's not my forte for sure.
Let's
but
check
it was
it out.
Fun.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
Yeah, it's that. So.
Going for the gold, darling, never fold. Doing the untold, it's my life I control. Coming with the bang, new trend, new thing. Coming out the dark like Bruce Wayne. Go ahead and shoot your shot, there's no change. If you make it, gotta take it, cause there's no range. And this game in life, everybody got a place, so don't take it light. Fight, cause you gotta make it right. Even off an idea from a sleepless night. Turn it into something that'll pay the flight. Pay the price to take off, no fear of heights. No fear of heights. Spark at the extendo got me feeling right. Dynamite, lit the fuse that blew my mind. And I don't give a fuck whether you comply. I'm doing I, never gonna lose the sight. Never gonna lose my mind. Got the vision where I'm gonna be. Through the tunnel I part out to sea. Wavy vibe, no killing it for me. Overcoming fear, that's why I just appeared. Flip the switch on, shining like a chandelier. Yeah, all night. Pretty fucking lit it till the sunlight. Good morning, and you know I gotta hit it, so she moaning. Never even had to send a warning, but I'm just talking some shit. Always do when I'm lit with the saucy outfit.
No, we not done, just getting started, going for a run, a marathon. Saying that I'm funny and I shout. You'll feel a second off the mask now, oh no. Now it's time for you to run. These are warning shots without a gun. I'm a two, this is 101, 101, 101.
And we starting in.
Oh, dude. How have I never heard that?
It's you know, like, and my brother turned it out. Like, I mean, he knocked it out. Like, it was fun. It was really fun to do. And so I took that and I decided I was going to try a different outlet, not Guillen. And I was trying to go under the name Wolfgang. But this was also without knowing that Tyler, the Creator, had, what's it called? It's like Odd Future Wolfgang something. I forgot what the whole thing is, but and you know, one of my friends, Josh, told me, he's like, "Yeah, man, there's already like Wolfgang technically," and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it anyway."
Yeah.
And so I made a song called Fire that was in the light of like The Weeknd. And I've made two songs that are kind of like that. They're like Weeknd-ish, and I did okay. The music was good, and I don't really fit in that, you know, category. My voice isn't really made for it. But I always thought, damn, if I heard The Weeknd singing this, it would be fire. You know, it'd be good.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kind of reminded me when you mentioned like Sia.
Yeah.
Or talking about those writers who they write specifically for other artists. I always felt like I could definitely sell those songs to them, you know?
Yeah, that's something I think is worth. It's worth like the energy, the focus, the reps, the failure. Like it's totally worth it, you know? Like I would DM hundreds of people a day on Instagram like, hey, I want to basically take free photos for you, or, you know, record something for you, and all you need is one person to say yes, you know, and then repeat, right? Like it's a grind, but it beats waiting and overthinking and staying in your head, right? Like of course it's a grind. It's got to be a grind, you know, because it takes audacity. Yeah. It takes audacity to want to pull that off for a living and to make art money. It's so audacious. But it's totally worth it, man. I mean, you already got the skills. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody. Now you just got to knock on some doors. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that's what I have to do, honestly.
If you made that a part of your brand, like, hey, I'm Guillen, I do this, and so here's all the stuff that I've done. Yeah, that's great. But, you know, just kind of like a repackaging of, and you put that out there that you do it, people are going to hit you up, man. For sure. And all you need is one smash that goes out there, and then you got the credibility for that, and then you got the next one, you get the access. Once you got the access, now you're inside, shake the hands, meet people, blah, 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 give value. That's it. Like, that's the way you go. You're still young.
I got to figure out how to do that, you know? I could, like, and that's also been my one of my weaknesses is reaching out to people. I always keep trying to do everything on my own, you know?
You know what it is? It's the way we grew up, man. Like, we grew up in a way that was harder, you know, I think, than these kids. These kids, like, that's second nature to them. They don't question it. It's not just because they're kids. It's because that's encouraged, man. Like, people now, if you're 18 and you start a business, people kind of take you seriously, that you can make money. You know, at 18, and if I started a business and I put CEO, you know, I'm like CEO of, no one's going to take me seriously in 2006. Nobody. Not even my own family, you know. And fuck everybody that told me, like, oh, you know how hard it is to make it? Well, fuck, I would never tell that to one of my family members. I'd just be trying to help them, you know, try to give them, you know, if it's solicited, you know, some good advice, you know, tweaks here and there, but just tell them, you know how hard it's going to be? Like, there's a difference between, you know, if my son says he wants to be a doctor, yeah, it's going to take 10 years. That doesn't mean you can't do it, you know, it's different. But I think the way you start is you just start and you do tremendous research. This is me talking, like, my anxiety. You can't, sometimes, like, research and studying and planning, like, sometimes that feels really rewarding because it feels like you're being productive. After a while, like, you have to know when to say, okay, now I got to just go. You know, like, I planned for 10 years. Like, I'm a planner. But shit doesn't really pop until you go, man. And if something doesn't go according to plan, then you're like, well, I'm going to plan again, right? So I think you just go, like, you just have to go and say, hey, I'm doing this. This is what I do now. I'm doing this. I'm passionate about it. Like, who out there, dude, like, you know, I don't know enough people personally, like, because I don't actively seek out musicians, but surely there's people in the country scene, there's people here, there's people there, and, you know, maybe you write, I don't know, a guitar thing for them, or you add this whatever, or you have a hook for them, right? Whatever that is, let them go out and whatever that transaction is for you that makes it worth it. Like, sometimes it's not even money. Like, we think about money too much. I got to eat too, I get it, but sometimes, like, the transaction is, hey, do you know this person? Yeah, can you give me their number, right? Ooh, that's more valuable than $1 sometimes. So it takes, dude, I don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. I don't really know, because it's hard for me to go meet people. If I was an extrovert, like, I'd be that guy that's like Dave. Dave's really good at meeting people and, like, making friends, and I'm like, I can't. It's just so hard. But also, I got kids and shit, so it's hard to want to leave them. You know, it's much easier to just, you know, watch Alita Battle Angel with my daughter for the 40th time. It's just much easier to do that.
Right.
You know, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was saying, I told you, man, when it comes to, like, meeting new people, literally just starting a conversation a lot of times. But it's about the vibe too. If you're worried about it, like what someone's gonna say, then it won't happen. But if you see someone turn to you, they're already interested in starting a conversation.
Yeah,
I feel.
No, totally. The energy, the intent, it matters. But I mean, as you know, like, I'm not gonna say never, but I can't think of a moment where I said something and it totally burnt a bridge and people hated me and they thought I was a fucking loser. That's happened in my head a billion times, and so my neurons feel that it's real, but it hasn't happened, right? So, yeah, but what's happened more is, like, I put myself out there and I meet a cool person. Now I'm still friends with that person, you know? That happens more.
You know,
like, that was, like, the good thing about Yerba as I was leaving, as I knew I was going to leave, like, Yerba was happening, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was trying to forge my presence there, not as a entertainer, but as a guy behind the scenes of like, yeah, I support all you guys. I have your back. And so I don't know what the scene is there. I can tell you that there's talent in the Valley. There's no money, right? There's no money. But with what you do, I'm a big believer in, like, now that we exist on the internet, like, everything's remote. Everything is mobile, virtual. Like, if you just show the internet every day that you're open for business and here's what you do and here's the people that can vouch for you, that's the shit that becomes word of mouth, you know, and then you let other people speak up for you.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the way it goes for everybody, for sure. I want to be very respectful of your time. We've been going for over 2 hours, and something tells me you're in your car right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I respect that because it sounds good. It sounds really good. I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, that's actually why I'm in here. Cause, I mean, it's a perfect sound chamber, and like,
I know.
It's closed off. You know, like they're built to be perfect for audio.
I've recorded some of the best sounding voiceovers for my job, like in a car, like for sure. But before we go do our own thing, I definitely, this goes without saying, want to do this again. Like, this is kind of like a backstory introduction type episode for my audience, so they can know like who you are, what you're all about, what you do, what you got going on. So I wanted to get those formalities out of the way, but I definitely want to build this foundation that lends for more fuck off conversations and maybe creative stuff down the road. So don't you worry about that. We're going to do this again, hopefully again and again and again. But is there anything that you want to walk away from with this talk that I can do for you, or I can give you, or if you have something that's like a rock in your shoe that you'd like to get off your chest, or anything you want to ask me? And I just want to be able to do right by you, and that way you can look back on this episode and say, cool, like we got a lot of cool stuff in.
I mean, 100%. I'm glad we finally had this.
Same.
I've been wanting to, you know, and I just didn't know like how it would go. I had enough to say, but obviously, like, 100% always look forward to our conversations. Because honestly, I mean, it goes back and forth, never ending, pretty much. And I always get, like, I look forward to your podcast daily. Because even if you think like, you know, you're just like you say, you have to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Like every little tidbit to me, I feel like it's daily gold. Like,
that's cool.
But I will say that I guess if there's anything I want to put out, it's more that I'm open to any type of collaboration with anybody. I love that. Like that gives me that spark that I think I've kind of shut out for a long time. And
well, you were in the hyperbolic chamber. You're this cocoon that's inside, like, you know, thinking and festering and growing and also accumulating life experience, right? Like, you got to go out, you got to get fucked, you got to fuck, you got to create new friendships and relationships, and you got to go to bumfuck Oklahoma and realize this is not what I want to do, and lay concrete or whatever it is. And, like, you know, you have to get life in before you have something worth saying, right? Like, how many musicians after a while, they don't have anything interesting to say, and then their songs are just about touring and hotel rooms and being on the road. And it's like, okay, but how relatable is that, right? Like, you have to live a life.
1,000%, man.
And I think you've been doing that. And also, just to tag what you're saying about being open to collaboration, I would also add, Guillen's very approachable, and don't be intimidated by him. Don't be intimidated, because the truth is, like, I think he's like, it's like at the gym, man. Like, it's always like the people that are like the most jacked that will be the first to spot you if you ask. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be intimidated by people. You know,
100%.
They're just more down the marathon than you, but we're all on the same marathon. We're all just, you know, trying to build our dreams, and that's what Guillen's trying to do as well. So don't be intimidated by him. Just wanted to let people know that up front.
Definitely, 1,000%. I would hope no one's intimidated. But I also don't take those things into consideration. You know, those are certain things that I forget, you know, that not everyone is that, or doesn't think that everybody's as approachable, you know. Yeah, 100%. Anybody ever has questions or has, you know, wants an opinion on something, or I'll always, like, what I feel is like I took my time not only learning my instrument, but learning the craft of writing, of learning arrangements, of music in general, just understanding it all, you know, and then meeting all the people that I have, the great musicians, the great creatives, all the different people that I've met just over the different jobs that I've been at. Every little bit contributes to where I'm at this point. And I kind of feel like what is the point of me having done the work and learning everything, and if I can't share it and help someone else make, you know, maybe the next thing that blows my mind.
That's right. That's true. Yeah, man, same. You know, I think about that too with videographers. Like, once I know something's wrong with me when I start feeling petty and I'm like, what the fuck? Why does this guy have? I'm like, Knives, no, you're not looking at this all wrong, man. Like, this isn't there's so much room for anybody to make it. Everybody's trying to inspire one another. Like, when I'm bitter, it's because I'm resentful because I'm not doing enough. Like, it's never other people. You know, people only inspire me. Like, no one ever really tries to take anything away from me, to be honest. And if they do, they can't. You know, I've been fucked in the business, and I've hurt people, and I've been hurt, and it has not been enough to stop me. You know, and I think for most people, they don't want to get hurt, but that's part of the process. Like the David Bowies, the Princes, the Ozzy Osbournes, whomever. Like, everybody has been hurt one way or another, or has been the asshole, you know? And I've been that too, and it doesn't define me, and you have to keep going. So I can get stuck in the cycle as well, and I can get in my head and I can start overthinking, but it's nothing with, you know, it's always positive intentions, man. And the thing that gets me out of it is actually working, is doing this. Like this right here is, it's like, you know, when I used to backyard wrestle, the thing I liked about it the most was when I'm getting hit in the head, or if I'm throwing somebody off of something, like, I'm not thinking about my bills. It's like a free fall. Like, I'm just going down. And for me, recording podcasts with cool people do that as well. Like, I haven't been in my head in this conversation, you know what I mean? So just interfacing with more people is good. And you're lucky that they don't need to be musicians for you to vibe off of them. Like, that's good, you know?
Yeah.
So do more of that, get more of that in your life before you commit to an oil rig. If that's something you want to do and you got to do it, do it. 100%. I support that. And I'll see you when you get back. But at the same time, like, you know, you're going to get in your head again when you're over there, and you're going to be daydreaming about what you can do once you're here right now. So at least try to get some in before you go.
It's very true. That's my nature, man.
For sure.
That's my nature. I always, yeah. You nailed it.
I love you so much, man. Thank you for coming on the show. We're going to do it again. I'm not just saying that. Just wanted to crack the pavement initially for people, and then we'll come on, and then I'll have even more questions to ask. And then just creatively speaking, like, I want to know how you build something, how you create something. When you know something is finished, like, I want to get into the meat and potatoes, into creation.
That sounds great, man.
I can't wait for that. It's going to happen. Just before I let you go, where can people find you on the internet?
My main music page is guillen.bandcamp.com. You can find me on Instagram at THE_Guillen, GUILLEN. I'm also on TikTok right now, so posting random content. It's a lot of fun. And, of course, you always open the messages, send me whatever. And love you, man. This was great.
I love you too, man. This will be up in a bit, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Take care, man.
Never ever believe anything you hear. And believe only half of what you see. And always, 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 always forever and ever and ever put a force field around your heart.